And so, after two terrific, if tense and tough tussles that ended one goal apiece, one win apiece, one very frank exchange of coaching views apiece, Sydney FC and Western Sydney Wanderers get it on again for the last time, finals notwithstanding. Here's the team news. Sydney FC go with the same 11 that started in Wellington. Their late bid to get Max Burgess's suspension reduced, falling on deaf ears during the week, while Adam Lafondra, of course, remains on the sidelines with injury. Diego Caballo again plays in advance of Joel King on the left. Robert Mack leads the line, while Ryan Grant plays his 299th game in a sky blue jersey, and in his 26th derby. He'll clock up the triple ton against Western United next week, the first Sydney player to reach that number. Now, a handful of changes for the Wanderers. Gabriel Kleur was due to return from suspension, but sustained a kick to the foot in training and is having scans to assess the damage. So 19-year-old former Sydney FC junior Aidan Simmons makes his derby debut at right back, with Roman Amalfitano shifting back into midfield to cover for Morgan Schneiderlin, who also misses out with injury. Cassini Yangi replaces Yeni Mbakoto at the venue where he scored the winner in the first derby of the season back in November. And in defence, Marcelo returns after suspension. He'll be partnered by Tom Beadling, with Tomislav Merchler now serving a ban. And off we go. Frankie Goes to Hollywood once sang that when two tribes go to war, a point is all that you could score. Andy Harper, the two teams want more than that tonight.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Simon. Not your genre at all, but I get your drift. Welcome to everybody. A special night in the A-League, a mighty clash, a fantastic crowd, a brilliant stadium. These are very fortunate players to be able to take the field on a night like this, with so much riding on the game. So it's a case of sit back and enjoy what's going to be an incredibly tense and, let's hope, incredibly exciting game of football.
Marcelo driving the ball forward, looking for the run of Cassini Yangi, which forces Andrew Redmayne to come outside his box. And there was a little bit of contact from Yangi. Just a little bit of a good evening. How are you doing? It's derby night, don't forget.
Well, Cassini Yangi making his presence felt early. He made his presence felt late.
Loose from Sydney in the early stages. Chance for Ninkovic to try and drive into the box. It breaks for Callum Nieuwenhof. And the Wanderers will get the game's first corner. Good start by the red and black.
Yeah, sloppy from Sydney to get things going. Just a minute or so in, but you can't afford to be asleep at any point. Two former Sydney players who've been magnificent for the Wanderers as they've crossed the divide. Callum Nieuwenhof and Milos Ninkovic combining there to win this corner.
In front of the Cove, Roman Amalfitano to deliver. Wanderers the only team in the league yet to score from a corner this season. Let's see if that's about to change. Driven in towards the near post. Helped on by Leuni. Amalfitano, and it drops here for Yengi. Down he goes inside the box, and there is a half shout for a spot kick from the Wanderers, but crucially perhaps not from Yengi himself.
Wow, what a chance for the Wanderers. Maybe a bit of lack of game rustiness from Cassini Yangi. So early the pressure from the Wanderers put onto Sydney, who buckled in truth. Couldn't get the ball clear. Amalfitano's shot had plenty of promise. Maybe would have been rubbed off for offside anyway, despite the fact that Ryan Grant played at the ball. His deflection wasn't intentionally heading that way. And Cassini Yangi not to know. Ball just getting stuck. Couldn't quite finish it off.
Retro's not escaped. Now Barello slipped the ball through, and more Leuni. Big chance for the Wanderers. Yengi has to score, and does again at Allianz Stadium. This time in front of the Cove. He's becoming the Sky Blues bogeyman, and the Wanderers contingent goes wild at the other end of the ground.
Well, on the Harvey Norman replay, look at that work from the returning Socceroo, Brandon Borrello. It's just the most magnificent pass to see off a defender and thread that through the angle. And don't you love this from Amor Leone? Beautiful composure. And Cassini Yengi arrives just as he needs to. That's absolutely sensational from Brandon Borrello. The little feint from the import attacker from Tunisia, who dishes it off to Cassini Yengi, makes it 2 from 2 at the Allianz.
Grant, no way through for him. And Yengi will set up another attack. It's Ninkovic threading it through. Amor Leone! It's 2 for Western Sydney Wanderers. And the Sydney FC defence was split apart once again. And the Tunisian pounced.
Well, an incredible moment for the Western Sydney Wanderers. Sloppy from Sydney, and they swarmed in numbers on the Harvey Norman replay. The ball in space falls to the maestro, Miloš, who finds the Tunisian Leone with an assist and now a goal in a Sydney derby. Magnificent pass, but Sydney's defence torn asunder, and the Wanderers leap too clear. It's been an outstanding opening to this game by the Red and Blacks. And the Sky Blues with a huge job in front of them at home again.
Well, an assist for the first. And now he helps himself. Just glanced off the inside of the post. To the Red and Black with love from Amor. And the Wanderers weathered that little storm. Here's Ninkovic, able to turn and try and feed in Leone. Sydney clear, only as far as Nieuwenhof. Wilkinson gets a piece of it, heavy off the chest of Caceres. Oh, hasn't he done well there, Lolly? Well, at least initially, but again it breaks for the Red and Black. Ninkovic almost managed to slip through Leone. And now Retre with Yengi right on his hammer, and the Wanderers have pinched the ball. It's Brandon Borrello. It's a really smart save by Redmayne. Possibly to keep Sydney FC in it.
Well, the Wanderers' hunger has been a defining characteristic of this first half lead. Cassini Yengi just doing enough. Callum Nieuwenhof was anticipating and stretched in for the tackle. And then one of the sharpest in the business at the moment forces some very sharp goalkeeping. Borrello against Redmayne.
They are very much in the driving seat here. That despite being without 2 of their defensive regulars. There is a Sydney FC bench. A few of those youngsters. If he could hear you, I'm sure Patrick Wood would be saying, don't forget about me.
Indeed, he hasn't been forgotten.
There he is.
Neither forgotten nor to be missed with the peroxide bots.
With he and Luke Bratton, of course, doing the world's greatest shave. Aid of the Leukemia Foundation, great cause. Bratton has missed out on that challenge. Aidan Simmons on the charge forward. Yengi, could they seal it before the break, the Wanderers? Yengi trying to get clear of Grant, still going. And the shot was pretty tame in the end from Simmons, who galloped all the way upfield to give himself a chance of scoring in the derby.
Well, he made the opportunity as well. It was an outstanding little bit of play in the lead-up. Unfortunate finish for the young Socceroo Simmons.
Well, what a first half for Western Sydney Wanderers. Cassini Yengi scoring for the second time in this venue this season, putting them in front. Amor Leone with the assist for that one. And then 9 minutes later, he was on the score sheet himself after a through ball from Miloš Ninkovic. Sydney FC have had their moments, but to coin a phrase, in the final third, they've been bang average. Sydney FC 0, Western Sydney Wanderers 2 at the break. Let's see if all that's about to change. Sydney need a goal, need a response. Otherwise, it's going to be the Wanderers for the second time this season at Allianz Stadium. And that hasn't happened in a single campaign, I can tell you, since the first 2 years of the Wanderers' life. Back in seasons 12-13 and then 13-14. Jayden Kucharski has gone out to the right-hand side of Sydney FC attack with Joe Lolly on the left. Robert Mack still in the centre. Something a little bit different for the Wanderers' defence to think about. He's a young man who's got a lot of potential, been used in fits and starts off the bench. Won the NPL New South Wales gold medal for his performances with the young Sydney side in 2022. And potentially a big stage for him in this second half. Traore's throw. Alfitano all the way back to Lawrence Thomas. Yengi was just ambling back from an offside position. Wilkinson. Lolly. Looking to steer that ball in behind, and it wasn't a bad release from the Englishman. Robert Mack was onto it. It needed that intervention from Lawrence Thomas. Sydney FC attacking the Cove end of the ground in this second half. Came off the head of Simmons, but not where he wanted it to go. It'll favour Joe Lolly. 2 in the box for Sydney, and Lolly can't find either of them. Disappointing end to a promising moment for Sydney FC. Lolly. Rattray moves it on sharply for Caceres. Bratton. Creeping forward is Ryan Grantz down that right-hand side. Wilkinson. Caballo. Lolly had to take that first time. It was the best pass to him from Diego Caballo. North that one, straight at Marcelo. And then Bratton misses his kick, and the Wanderers could be away here. Ninkovic finding Leuni on the right. Yengi making a late run. Leuni might go on his own. And he came off the outside of the boot.
Just that sharpness that's not there second half compared to first. I mean, they pitched the ball from similar circumstances in the first half to make their goals. On this occasion, Leuni against Wilkinson, you back the Tunisian in the foot race.
Very topsy-turvy campaign for Steve Corica's side. Never really looked set in the top 6. Won't be tonight if it stays this way. Here's Borrello. Yengi. Back through Aidan Simmons. Amalfitano. Ninkovic able to turn. Nieuwenhof encouraged to shoot by the fans. And does so! Against his former club, a howitzer into the top corner, and surely Sydney are sunk in the derby. 3-0 for the red and black.
Well, this is a good one. Harvey Norman replay, to be replayed plenty of times. His first goal in the A-League down in Wollongong was something similar from Callum Nieuwenhof. But that's just not good enough pressure defensively. And Callum Nieuwenhof is having quite the season. He's a beautiful technician. He gets this completely perfect. Hits it magnificently. Ex-Sydney Ninkovic to ex-Sydney Nieuwenhof to past ex-Wanderer Redmayne into the back of the net. It's a brilliant strike from a hugely talented player, but just not enough eagerness in defence for Sydney. Nowhere near. And this one might well be gone.
Had a good little spell at the start of the second half, but that really is a hammer blow for them, that third goal. Cushion header by Lolly. Kucharski wanted it played short. It goes square for Retro instead. Lolly again. And have a go here, Joe Lolly. And it took a deflection. It's going to be a corner.
First scramble of the night for Lawrence Thomas, really. Well, there is time if they take a leaf out of Perth Bora's book. Not that they've overhauled a 3-goal lead. They've fought to the end of glory. There is time for Sydney. And there is quality on the field for Sydney. Can they test that man, Lawrence Thomas?
Max corner. Seen away by Marcelo. He wins so many of those balls into the box. It's one of the reasons why they've brought him to the club. That Romano Malfitano picked up that yellow card a little bit earlier on. That's his 5th of the season as well. So he too will fall foul of the rules and miss a big game against Adelaide next week. That should be some contest. Here's Robert Mack for Sydney FC. Behind him is Joe Lolly, and they find a toe hold in the game. Not quite from Lolly.
He just got stuck to start with. Probably put him off, but he's been Sydney's most dangerous player by quite some margin. Promising opportunity. Borders getting stuck there. That really set him back. Decided to try and make something of it. Nothing forthcoming.
Slung out by Luke Bratton towards Lolly. Turned back by Rattray. Bratton looking for that run of Ryan Grant that we've seen so often down the years. Ryan Grant! That's a really good save by Lawrence Thomas. Just made himself big. Sydney's best chance possibly of the night from that trademark run.
Well, Bratton to Grant. Great chest control. Adama Traore beaten for the first time tonight. It's a difficult one for Adama. It's a difficult one for Lawrence Thomas as well.
Happy to see themselves on the big screen, but probably not so happy that the team that they're supporting tonight, or at least the jerseys that they're wearing, are on the losing side at the moment. Here's another telling stat. We looked at the crosses. The Wanderers, 30 clearances. They show great desperation when they're under pressure.
Big difference. Big difference. And it gets to that moment, that last one, with Diogo Caballo, inside the penalty area, left-hand side, with incredible amount of time. No solution at the end of it. A pass that went nowhere.
Oh, Varela, lovely ball. Layuni! Game, set, and match to the red and black. Sydney have been put to the sword, ripped apart. And the Wanderers fans will go home happy tonight.
Well, it's Layuni again. Caballo with a nothing clearance. He can't recover the ground. Layuni has been dangerous on the Harvey Norman replay. Finishes it with aplomb. And Sydney FC on the brink of an utter humiliation. And the Wanderers, for their part, are flying. Barella, beautiful reverse pass. Hasn't he done some work tonight? Layumi, 2 goals and an assist. It's just been a red and black attack that Sydney have not been able to counter. Prone on the canvas, the Sky Blues, the last rites about to be administered.
Bio into swinging the cross, Traore underneath it. Break here for Alex Wilkinson, or rather Jack Rodwell, I should say. Apologies. Kucharski. Woods. Chance. Rodwell. Surely for Sydney. No. Miraculous double stop by Lawrence Thomas. Didn't know too much about the first one. In the end, the ball just pops up into his arms. It's been that sort of night for the Wanderers. And that sort of evening for Sydney.
Well, little snapshot of Kucharski too, just quietly in the lead up there. Very sharp give and go. Rodwell made a nuisance of himself. Might have been, no, it was onside. Being played on by Bonatic. And then it was the heroics of Lawrence Thomas, desperate to protect that clean sheet.
Lawrence Thomas can only stand and watch. Adrian Segacic denied. And difficult few days after missing the penalty for the young Socceroos that saw them go out against Uzbekistan in the AFC Under-20 Asian Cup. That would have brought at least some joy to Sydney FC on what has otherwise been a thoroughly miserable night for the Sky Blues. And Ali Reza Fagani confirms Western Sydney Wanderers' biggest ever win in the derby. Steve Corica's side utterly dismantled and ultimately dispirited by a thoroughly professional performance by the Red and Black. They were on it from the first whistle. They took the lead through Cassini Yengi. Then the excellent Amor Layuni made it 2. In the second half, Callum Nieuwenhof, prompted by fellow former Sydney FC player Milos Ninkovic, made it 3. And then Layuni with his second of the game. Sydney huffed and puffed, but could not breach Lawrence Thomas's goal. And Western Sydney Wanderers win at Allianz for the second time this season. He scores here for the second time this season. And bragging rights belong to the West this season, as they avenged that defeat in Parramatta just a few weeks ago. They're back up in third. Sydney drawn back to the pack. It is the perfect night to be a Wanderer. The Harbour City is red and black this evening. Full time, Sydney FC 0, Western Sydney Wanderers 4.